I'm angry that without Picard's spinoff, Star Trek will never answer its biggest Q question. I'm not just disappointed. I'm angry. The kind of nerd angry that only Star Trek can inspire. The slow burn frustration that comes from realizing a franchise built on curiosity, continuity, and cosmic consequence is about to leave one of its most fascinating questions forever unanswered. And the worst part? It didn't have to be this way. Without a proper Star Trek, Picard spin-off, or any follow-up that meaningfully engages with what Picard set in motion, Star Trek is quietly abandoning the single biggest unresolved question surrounding Q. Not the continuum. Not the trial. Not even whether humanity passed. The real question is simpler and far more unsettling. What was Q really preparing Jean-Luc Picard for, and did Picard's death mean Q failed? Q was never just a trickster, and Picard proved it. For decades, fans have joked about Q as a cosmic prankster, a godlike nuisance, a chaos agent with jazz hands and impeccable timing. But the next generation always treated that interpretation as a surface-level distraction. Beneath the smug monologues and finger snaps, Q had a purpose. From Encounter at Farpoint onward, Q wasn't testing Picard's competence. He was testing humanity's capacity for growth. Picard was his chosen proxy, not because Picard was perfect, but because Picard changed. He doubted. He learned. He evolved. Star Trek. Picard finally made that explicit. Season 2 reframed Q's entire relationship with Picard as deeply personal. Intimate, even. Q wasn't tormenting Picard for sport. He was guiding him toward emotional truths Picard had spent a lifetime avoiding. Love. Regret. Fear. Mortality. And then, Picard ended. No spin-off. No continuation. No exploration of the consequences. Just a quiet implication that Q's story and Picard's cosmic significance was finished. It doesn't feel finished. It feels cut off. The biggest Q question isn't about power. It's about legacy. The continuum has always been an abstraction, an idea more than a place. What made Q compelling wasn't his omnipotence. It was his fixation on humanity, and more specifically, on Picard. Q didn't choose Kirk. He didn't choose Sisko. He barely tolerated Janeway. But Picard? Picard was different. Picard Season 2 suggested something radical. That Q's interest in Picard wasn't merely observational, it was existential. As Q faced his own mortality, a concept previously unthinkable, Picard became a mirror, a case study, a proof of concept. If a being like Picard, deeply flawed, emotionally guarded, scarred by trauma, could still choose connection and compassion at the end of his life, then maybe Q could too. Which raises the question Picard never answered. Was Picard the template for what Q wanted to become? If so, then Picard's death, his transformation into a synthetic body, his withdrawal from galactic affairs, wasn't closure. It was an interruption. And without a spin-off, that interruption becomes permanent. Picard's death made Q's goodbye feel incomplete. Q's final moments in Picard Season 2 were tender, vulnerable, and deliberately ambiguous. He didn't just say goodbye, he thanked Picard. That alone should have set off alarm bells. Q doesn't thank people. That scene begged for follow-up. Not necessarily with Picard himself, but with the universe Picard left behind. A universe that had been shaped, subtly but profoundly, by Q's interventions across decades. Did the continuum notice Q's change? Did Picard's growth ripple outward in ways Q anticipated? Was the trial truly over, or merely passed to someone else? These aren't trivial lore questions. They go to the heart of what Star Trek believes about progress, about whether evolution is finite or ongoing, about whether even gods can learn. Instead, Picard bowed out with nostalgia and fan service, and then Star Trek moved on. Why a spin-off was the only way to finish the story. A Picard spin-off didn't need to star Jean-Luc Picard as the central figure. In fact, it shouldn't have. The story begged for a new perspective, someone inheriting the consequences of Picard's long relationship with Q. 7 of 9. Jack Crusher. Even a new Starfleet officer encountering echoes of Q's tests. Any of them could have explored the aftermath of Q's final experiment. Picard himself. Without that lens, Q's arc becomes oddly small. A personal epiphany instead of a cosmic shift. And that feels wrong for a character who once flung starships across galaxies to make a point. Star Trek thrives on aftermath, on consequences, on the idea that no encounter, especially not with a god, ends cleanly. By refusing to continue Picard in any meaningful way, the franchise is choosing comfort over curiosity. This isn't just about Q, it's about what Star Trek values now. Here's the part that really stings. Modern Star Trek loves mysteries, but it hates sitting with them. Shows race from arc to arc, revelation to revelation, without allowing implications to breathe. Q's story required patience, reflection, a willingness to explore metaphysical discomfort.